The protagonist of this manhwa is one of the most average-looking people you could imagine, and he earns a living working at a logistics center. Kim Jangum isn't exactly fond of his job, and it quickly becomes clear why. When he tries to start a casual conversation with a robot stationed beside him, the machine simply ignores him and continues with its tasks. This is precisely what bothers him about his workplace. The logistics center is fully staffed with advanced AI robots that perform nearly all of the physical labor. Jangum's role is to supervise the operations, but there's not a single human colleague around to talk to. He often feels somewhat disconnected, longing for a hint of real human connection, and occasionally wonders if he's in the wrong place altogether. It all began around 2 months ago, shortly after he finished his military service. That was when his streak of misfortune seemed to kick off. The first major incident was his parents relocating to Wjongbu. As a small reward for his military discharge, they covered the deposit and 6 months' rent for his small studio apartment, leaving him to live on his own near his old school. And so, his solitary life began. Although he was financially comfortable due to government support and the assistance from his parents, Jangum decided to take his time searching for a job without rushing, hoping to find the ideal position. However, things didn't go smoothly. He encountered rejection after rejection without even getting a chance to showcase his skills. After a month of unsuccessful job hunting, Jangum was starting to lose his mind from sheer boredom. One day, while wasting time, he ended up complaining to his sister about his current situation as a jobless, struggling brother. Predictably, his sister seized the opportunity to poke fun at him, turning their chat into a teasing session. He'd heard that delivery companies had started using AI robots to make work easier, and many people were getting jobs as operators in these companies. Intrigued, he decided to apply, and that's how he ended up in this gloomy place, where he has no one to talk to. Just as we're discussing this, someone calls out to him, a man who looks cranky and unapproachable at first glance. He has the demeanor of a strict manager, fitting the role perfectly. The senior employee informs him that they're out of tuna stock, even though the system shows some still available. He instructs Jangum to check the warehouse for any missing stock. With a forced smile, Jangum agrees, even though he finds the robots warmer than his ice-cold senior. As soon as Jangum steps into the warehouse, the door behind him begins to close. He quickly starts searching for the tuna his senior mentioned. After rummaging around, he finally spots the stock, climbs up a riser, and grabs it. Just then, he hears a loud bang as the warehouse door slams shut. He tries the handle, but it won't budge. He calls his supervisor, Shin, but there's no response. He briefly considers dialing 911, but decides against it, thinking it's not an emergency since he's not trapped in a freezer. Instead, he takes a selfie and sends it to his sister, letting her know he's stuck in the warehouse. At first, she jokes about his situation, but then suddenly mentions hearing a building collapse outside her home. This immediately worries Jangum, and he calls her to check if she's safe. When she picks up, there's only silence on her end, making him wonder if she's playing a prank. But before he can process it, the entire warehouse starts trembling, and an emergency alarm blares. The scene descends into chaos as announcements urge everyone to evacuate immediately. Trapped in the warehouse with no idea of what's going on outside, he starts banging on the door with his fists, hoping someone will hear. In desperation, he tries to call 911, only to discover that his cell signal is down. He feels like he's losing his mind, and the idea that there might be an all-out war happening outside only makes it worse. Suddenly, he hears something pounding on the main door from the other side, each hit leaving a massive dent in the steel door, as if it were as fragile as paper. His hands tremble as he instinctively pulls them away from the doorknob, sensing that whatever is going on outside is beyond his control. He's certain that even the slightest noise would be his undoing. Sweating and terrified, he collapses to his knees, relieved as the pounding on the door finally stops. Yet the chaotic sounds and screams outside are still loud enough to fill him with dread. 3 days have passed since that horrific day, and he's still trapped inside the warehouse, surviving on whatever food he can find. No one has come to look for him, and he's convinced that something catastrophic must have happened outside. He wonders if a war has broken out and almost feels relieved to be stuck in here, thinking he might not have survived if he'd been out there. The alarm, which had been blaring continuously, went silent yesterday, allowing him to sleep at least, though he's unsure how much longer he can hold out with his battery draining. This might be his final message to the outside world. He's praying that a soldier or someone from his country will find him soon and protect his family. Just when he thinks things couldn't get any stranger, a system window suddenly appears before him, informing him that he has been selected and should check his awakened abilities. At first, Jangum thinks he must be imagining it, but then another message pops up, revealing that he has acquired a personal subspace to store objects. He starts to wonder if the tuna he's been eating for the last 3 days had something strange in it, maybe a bit of hallucinogen. Suddenly, another digital notification appears, indicating that a target has been selected and asking if he wants to store it. Without hesitation, he agrees, and the next moment, he finds himself falling, landing hard on solid ground outside. Scrambling to his feet, he looks around, only to find himself surrounded by rubble and complete devastation. As he scans the area, he spots his senior lying dead nearby, and the sight makes him nauseous. System windows continue flashing, but he's too busy throwing up after seeing the lifeless body. Then, the system informs him that a compatible operating system has been found and is currently being installed. Suddenly, he hears footsteps approaching from behind, and a massive shadow looms over him. He immediately realizes this shadow doesn't belong to a human. As the view pans out, it reveals an orc-like creature with sharp fangs and a huge, blood-covered body. Jangum starts sweating heavily, trying to stay calm and hoping his fears aren't real. He desperately tries to rationalize, telling himself that the loud roar he heard 3 days ago could have been from a gorilla or a bear. But he doesn't dare look back. Instead, he breaks into a run, sprinting for his life. His panic peaks as he understands that he's being pursued by an actual monster. He races wildly, accidentally stepping on someone's remains along the way. He has no clue why an orc-like creature is here or why it's chasing him, but he knows one thing: if he doesn't escape soon, he's doomed. Just then, another system window pops up, announcing that synchronization is complete and asking if he'd like to enter the subspace. With no hesitation, Jangum quickly confirms, as the monster is almost upon him. Just as the creature's hand swings at him, he dives into the portal, narrowly escaping. Once inside, he finds himself safe, while the monster is left on the other side, unable to follow and growling in frustration. Confused, Jangum wonders why the creature can't enter. A hovering drone appears and explains that nothing can enter his subspace without his permission, as he's the master of it. The drone further clarifies that the subspace is completely under his control. Jangum is stunned to see the drone talking and feels a strange sense of déjà vu. Looking around, he realizes he's back in what appears to be the logistics center warehouse, but this time, it's part of his new subspace. The entire area is filled with the same robots he saw before. The system announces that since he's entered the subspace for the first time, he'll receive a reward for completing the tutorial, a mana stone. The stone materializes in his hand, but before he can fully understand what it is, the monster outside starts banging against the portal, jolting him back to reality. Panicked, he quickly asks the system if it's really sure that the monster can't get inside. The system reassures him that nothing can enter without his permission. Another system window flashes, detailing that the logistics facility is a 5-story structure covering an area of 10,000 pyong, around 33,000 square meters. It's equipped to handle shipments at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour, with a size limit of 2 meters per shipment. Jangum is as puzzled as anyone would be, trying to make sense of this information. The system then notifies him that only 2 minutes remain until maintenance. Confused, he asks if the facility will shut down in 2 minutes. The drone confirms and explains that he can use the mana stone to power the subspace and keep it operational. Since he currently has 1 mana stone, it will sustain the facility for the next 24 hours. Amazed by the mana stone's efficiency, Jangum listens as the drone explains that when the logistics center was transferred to the subspace, the energy system was adapted to rely on mana stones. This transformation allows the facility to run on magical energy within the subspace environment. Jangum wonders aloud if any of this is even possible or if he's trapped in some kind of sci-fi nightmare. Suddenly, the facility's lights shut off, and the drone starts flashing emergency lights. The system informs him that the power supply has been cut off, and if it's not restored soon, Packs Fresh and other perishable items could start to spoil. Packs Fresh, he learns, is one of the services that handles the storage and delivery of fresh produce, meat, and ready-made meals in frozen and refrigerated conditions. Realizing that the monster is still lurking outside, Jangum understands that the outside world is essentially a war zone, and in such conditions, access to food could mean the difference between life and death. With the power to the cold storage cut off, this is a serious issue. He asks the drone if the mana stone can truly replace electricity. The drone confirms it, and Jangum then inquires how he can get more mana stones. The drone explains that they can be obtained from creatures from another world. It's clear that Jangum isn't too excited about facing the massive monster outside, a creature strong enough to tear him apart with ease. He instructs the drone to use the mana stone to power the facility for now, then heads deeper into the warehouse to gather some weapons. Inside, he collects a few weapons, and a system window pops up showing the cost of each item. With limited supplies, he worries about running out of stock if he uses them recklessly. He's also uncertain if the weapons he has will even pierce the creature's tough skin. Deciding that a slow, cautious approach might be smarter, he plans to wear the monster down gradually rather than trying to take it out in one hit. Since the monster can't enter his subspace, he doesn't need to rush. He can focus on inflicting minor injuries while conserving his resources and ensuring he doesn't run out of weapons too quickly. Jangum hurls an axe at the creature, but it only grazes its body, which infuriates the beast even more. Realizing his initial strategy isn't as effective as he'd hoped, and with his weapon supply running low, he decides to give the heavy axe another shot, hoping it'll pack more punch this time. He asks the system how many axes are left in stock and is stunned to hear there are still 15 available. Expecting only a few, this number takes him by surprise. He quickly inquires about the storage location and, upon reaching the area, discovers something incredible: the axes are duplicating infinitely. The system explains that these items can be replicated endlessly through a process that allows for infinite duplication. Although they can be damaged or altered, they'll never run out. This revelation leaves Jangum in awe. With an infinite supply of weapons, he no longer has to worry about conserving them. Relieved, Jangum realizes he can now throw as many axes as he wants at the monster without the fear of running out. He jokes to himself that his shoulder might give out before the creature does, but at least he has a seemingly endless arsenal. The system then reveals an interesting feature: he doesn't even have to throw the weapons manually. Apparently, he can ship products directly from his subspace to the outside world. The system explains that shipping can be done every 30 seconds, but the speed can be increased by improving his skills. Jangum quickly asks how to activate this feature, and the system tells him to simply think of the registered item and say ship for it to be launched automatically. Without missing a beat, Jangum says, "Ship," and an axe zooms through the air at incredible speed, smashing right into the monster's grotesque face, taking it down instantly. He realizes the drone was the one that threw the axe, and when he asks about the throw speed, the system confirms that the default shipping speed is 60 km per hour. Now Jangum understands what the system meant by shipping speed earlier. The system also reveals that he can adjust the speed up to a maximum of 75 km per hour. To go beyond that, however, he'll need to level up his skills. Naturally, Jangum asks how to enhance his skills, and the system explains that he can use mana stones for upgrades. Remembering the monster he just defeated, he realizes that hunting more of these creatures could help him progress. He quickly gears up from the facility, grabbing lightweight combat boots that cost around 50,000 KRW and matching tactical pants for about 78,000 KRW. Once fully equipped, he also purchases a detailed map of the Seoul metropolitan area and a permanent marker. He draws a circle around the Gwangjin district and marks neighboring areas in a specific order, mapping out his route. With a solid plan in place, he decides to start with the closest marked district and make his way toward his final destination. Jeongyum plans to head to Wjongbu to reunite with his parents. Starting from Gunpo and lacking a car, he realizes the journey ahead is going to be long and challenging. Although it's not as fast as a car or motorcycle, a regular bicycle becomes incredibly valuable in a post-apocalyptic world. It's practically a Lamborghini now. Without hesitation, he hops on the bike and starts pedaling through the desolate landscape. After about 30 minutes, night falls, and he has already taken down around 12 orcs along the way. Jang Yum then shares with us that he's learned something valuable from fighting these orcs. But before he can explain his discovery, a new monster suddenly appears and charges at him. Jang Yum quickly retreats into his subspace, leaving the creature outside. While the monster is temporarily stalled, he uses his shipment ability again to launch an axe at high speed. Unfortunately, the axe misses the mark slightly, only injuring the creature's shoulder. To use his shipment ability again, Jang Yum has to wait for the 30-second cooldown, and there's also a 10-meter range limit. Despite these limitations, he realizes that his skills are impressive and can be further enhanced by collecting mana stones and upgrading them. Aside from shipment, Pax's system has another useful function, which he'll soon uncover. The monster then notices the axe flying back through the portal and, before it can react, the weapon comes back with force, striking it squarely in the face and sealing its fate. This secondary function of Pax's ability is called product retrieval. It automatically brings dispatched items back, which is as convenient as the shipment ability itself. Using the retrieval skill, Jang Yum quickly collects the mana stone from the fallen monster. He wonders why he can't retrieve the mana stone before killing the creature, and the system explains that the stone only becomes his property after the monster is defeated. Accepting this, Jang Yum steps out of his subspace and reveals another crucial piece of information he's learned about this post-apocalyptic world. The orcs aren't the only dangerous creatures here, there are also winged monsters, and he knows it's going to take significant effort to bring one of them down. Suddenly, he hears cries for help, but before he can figure out where they're coming from, the scene shifts to another person named Choi, who is desperately running for his life. Exhausted, each of his steps grows heavier as a flying creature pursues him. The monster swoops down, slamming into Choi from behind and knocking him to the ground in pain. Another person trails behind Choi, and just as he's about to help his injured friend, the creature lands directly in front of him, blocking his path. Its fierce mouth drools as if craving human flesh. But strangely, the monster doesn't attack the person standing. Instead, it turns its attention to Choi, who is lying on the ground groaning. Realizing this, the man is shocked to see that the creature seems to be specifically targeting Choi, likely because he appears smaller and like an easier target. He has no idea how to confront this massive creature to save his friend, especially since he only has a small knife. He's doubtful it could even distract the monster. Suddenly, the sound of a bicycle bell rings out, echoing through the area. To everyone's surprise, it's Jang Yum speeding towards them. The two men don't know what to expect, and before they can process what's happening, they see the monster pursuing them get hit by a projectile, sending it sliding across the ground from the impact. It turns out the monster was taken down by a single axe throw, leaving the two men in utter shock, struggling to comprehend what they just witnessed. Jang Yum quickly checks if they're unharmed, but they're too stunned, jaws dropped, trying to understand how someone on a bicycle managed to defeat a flying wyvern with just an axe. They immediately ask Jang Yum if he's a soldier and start bowing their heads in gratitude for saving their lives. Jang Yum, happy to see them safe, points to his uniform and explains that he's an employee at Pax's FC, which is evident from the company attire he's wearing. This revelation leaves them even more astonished, as they assumed he was a skilled soldier due to his impressive abilities and composure. They're amazed that, even without being a soldier, he managed such a feat. If they hadn't seen it for themselves, they'd never believe someone could take down a wyvern with a simple axe throw while riding a bicycle. Jang Yum is surprised to learn that they're familiar with the concept of abilities. One of the men confirms this, mentioning he has an awakened ability of his own, though it's just a modest driving skill that hasn't been useful in these circumstances. Choi, the other man, laughs and admits he feels envious, as he hasn't awakened any ability himself. Jang Yum then asks if there are any other people around. Choi explains that they're in Block C, which has a logistics center where many people had initially gathered. Unfortunately, the monsters were drawn there as well, and most people were attacked, killed, or devoured. Only about 10 to 15 survivors remain, taking refuge in Block C's underground terminal. Choi further explains that they were out searching for a passable road for vehicles and gathering essential supplies when they were ambushed by the monster. His friend then suggests that instead of staying out here, Jang Yum should join them and head to their quarters on the 4th basement floor. That area has been free of monster attacks, so it's a relatively safe place where they can rest comfortably. They even offer him some light snacks. Jang Yum considers the offer, clearly intrigued by the mention of vehicles and eager for more information about working transportation options. Eventually, he decides to accept their invitation, though he's cautious and doesn't fully trust them. As they begin to walk, he takes one last look at the defeated monster lying on the ground. Discreetly, he retrieves the mana stone from the creature and places it in his subspace, relieved that the two men aren't aware of his ability. Knowing he has a backup plan gives him peace of mind. If things turn risky, he can escape into his subspace. After a while, they reach the basement quarters, where they see a man who appears to have just taken down an orc on his own. Choi rushes over to his friend, asking if everything is all right. The orc slayer reassures him, explaining that the orc likely wandered in by accident. Luckily, they managed to eliminate it without attracting attention, so no one was hurt. However, they now realize that this area may not be as secure as they once thought. On the other hand, Jang Yum feels a bit unnerved by how dangerous this place truly is. But he snaps out of his thoughts when the man who took down the orc asks about him. Choi explains that Jang Yum is the one who saved them from the wyvern and mentions that he used to work for PAX FC. He also adds that Jang Yum managed to kill the wyvern with a long-distance axe throw, leaving everyone amazed and eager to know more about his abilities. At that moment, a woman rushes over, thrilled to see the person who saved Yong-soo and Bong Cole. She's so grateful that she starts doing a little celebratory dance. The others gather around him, showering him with praise, while Jang Yum tries to downplay his actions, saying he just did what he had to do. As he's getting all this attention, Choi steps in, attempting to calm everyone down and telling them not to overwhelm the young guy. The orc slayer then speaks up, mentioning that everyone here has been working together for over a decade and that Yong-soo and Bong Cole are like family to him. Grateful for the rescue, he introduces himself as Lee Jinmak, the center manager of Dion Express Terminal, and even bows respectfully to Jang Yum. Once the introductions are complete, Jinmak gives Jang Yum a quick overview of the place. He explains that while they can't promise complete safety here, it's a lot more comfortable than the world outside. They have food and water supplies from the logistics center, so Jang Yum can help himself without any hesitation. Jinmak mentions that they have plenty of supplies and can restock from the logistics center if needed. However, Younggu interrupts, pointing out that the logistics center they're referring to has mysteriously disappeared. Everyone stares in shock, their jaws dropping at this unbelievable news. Jinmak quickly asks what this even means, and Choi confirms that the building is literally gone, explaining that this is why they were being chased by the wyvern. The group struggles to believe that such a massive structure could simply vanish. Finally, Jinmak comes to terms with the situation, reasoning that if monsters are real, then maybe it's not so absurd to believe that a building could disappear. Meanwhile, Jang Yum stands silently, and it's unclear if the disappearance of the logistics center has something to do with his subspace ability. Trying to calm everyone, Jinmak encourages them to stay focused and explains that they need to clear a path through the tunnel. He warns that staying here will only worsen the situation and tries to lift everyone's spirits, saying it's just a matter of timing. He adds that they'll start moving through the tunnel as soon as they're ready. The woman from earlier, now fired up, steps in to motivate the group. She reminds them that even without the logistics center, they still need to plan their next steps and insists they must push forward. Jang Yum turns to Jinmak, asking what pushing through actually means. Jinmak explains that everyone here has homes elsewhere, and vehicles are essential for travel. However, with the roads blocked, they need to find a way to clear the path. Jang Yum perks up at the mention of vehicles and asks for more details. Jinmak confirms that they have functioning vehicles but explains that all routes are obstructed. To the north, a golf course blocks the way, to the east, containers are piled up, and the southern Yangdong Expressway has been completely destroyed. The tunnel to the west is their only option, but unfortunately, it's occupied by a group of wyverns. Up until now, they've been able to survive by using supplies from the logistics center, but with that resource gone, they'll need to clear a path. Jinmak tells Jang Yum that he doesn't have to go through the tunnel since the blocked paths are primarily for vehicles, and there are alternate ways to escape on foot or by bicycle. But Jang Yum quickly responds that he needs a vehicle as well and decides that going through the tunnel is the best choice. The manager doesn't try to change Jang Yum's mind further and simply says he's welcome to join them if he's up for it. Jang Yum smiles and agrees, saying he'd be glad to work with them. However, he thinks it's probably best to keep his abilities hidden. While the group seems friendly, he knows they've been struggling to survive, whereas he was relatively safe in the logistics center. They may be running low on food and supplies, and he doubts they'll be completely open about their situation. Understanding the need for caution, he plans to stay alert and keep some secrets of his own. Jang Yum then turns to the manager and mentions he wants to check out the tunnel situation and assess the wyvern threat. Although he frames it as a scouting mission, he's actually planning to use his abilities to wipe out the horde of monsters and gather a good amount of mana stones in the process. The scene briefly flashes back to when he had saved up 5 mana stones after defeating several monsters. With these, he was able to reduce the cooldown on his shipping ability to just 5 seconds. This was when he unlocked new shipping abilities. The first option was precise delivery, which, as the name suggests, locks onto a target to ensure a direct hit. The second was simultaneous delivery, allowing him to ship 2 items at once. The third, automatic delivery, enables him to set items to deliver at timed intervals. Though these abilities sounded amazing, each one required 10 mana stones, and he was eagerly looking forward to seeing them in action, even though he wasn't quite sure what automatic delivery would do. In the present, he grins, pleased with his progress and excited for his scouting mission to earn even more mana stones. Or so he thought, until he finds himself unexpectedly stuck with Younggu, one of the guys he'd rescued earlier. When Jang Yum asks why Younggu is tagging along, Younggu explains it's too risky to go out alone. Jang Yum reminds him that he was the one being chased by the wyvern, but Younggu insists it doesn't matter, he can't let him go alone. Besides, Younggu is confident Jang Yum will come to his rescue again if needed. Jang Yum then recalls that Younggu mentioned he had a driver's ability, so he asks him if he can see any kind of message window or something similar that displays his ability. Younggu mentions that he hasn't seen any message windows or anything like that, but he has a strong feeling that he's awakened an ability, it just hasn't fully developed yet. This vague explanation doesn't exactly reassure Jang Yum, and he starts feeling uneasy. As night falls, their bike speeds down the road at an intense pace, with Jang Yum nervously sweating as he watches Younggu steer with one leg, trying to keep his balance. When Jang Yum asks why he's driving so recklessly, Younggu replies that there are too many cars on the road, making visibility difficult. Just then, Younggu spots a wyvern up ahead, and Jang Yum quickly tells him to stop since he can barely see. It seems the monster has detected their presence, and as it turns its fierce gaze toward them, Younggu nervously asks what they should do. At that moment, a projectile suddenly strikes the wyvern, taking it down in one hit, leaving Younggu baffled. Jang Yum, keeping his composure, tells Younggu to keep looking forward and not glance back. While saying this, he stealthily retrieves the mana stone from the wyvern and stores it in his subspace. Younggu then points out that he can see the tunnel up ahead. He slams on the brakes, and before Jang Yum can ask why they stopped, the reason becomes clear: a horde of monsters is crawling all over the area. Younggu is visibly terrified, and it wouldn't be surprising if he's on the verge of panic. As one of the monsters approaches, Younggu is convinced they're done for. Even with their electric bike, there's no way they can outrun so many wyverns. Bracing himself for the worst, Younggu feels his hope slipping away. But Jang Yum, realizing there's no other option, decides to use his subspace ability. He quickly opens his system and uses his mana stones to cut the cooldown of his shipping ability from 30 seconds down to just 5 seconds. Younggu, confused, asks what he's doing, but Jang Yum doesn't bother explaining. As the monster lets out a deafening roar, the surrounding creatures start closing in from every direction. Just in time, Jang Yum yells, "Ship," and a projectile crashes down, taking out the closest monster and saving Younggu. Still shaken, Younggu looks back, wide-eyed, and is stunned to see a portal open behind them. Jang Yum quickly collects the mana stones from the fallen creature and tells Younggu to stick close so he can keep him safe. Though still confused, Younggu agrees, having no idea what's going on or why a logistics center seems to be following them. More monsters appear, but one is swiftly taken down by Jang Yum's axe. As the others charge at them, Youngu panics and ends up diving into Jangyam's subspace. A monster slams into the subspace barrier, while Youngu stumbles backward, falling to the ground. The creature regains its balance and charges again, but Jangyam steps back into the subspace, and the monster crashes into the barrier once more, only to be defeated by another axe. Watching in awe, Youngu can barely believe what he's witnessing. Between the logistics center, the flying axes, and the defeated monsters, he's unsure what amazes him more. But one thing is clear, these monsters are mere pests to Jangyam, and this tunnel is just a minor obstacle for him to clear with ease. Reflecting on the others in the basement who needed a delivery vehicle for food and safe travel, Youngu realizes that for Jangyam, the vehicle is merely a mode of transport since he can handle threats effortlessly. A hint of jealousy creeps into Youngu's mind as he wishes he had such a powerful ability, it would make reaching his family so much easier. He's curious about how far Jangyam plans to go if he feels the need for a vehicle. Just then, they notice some monsters starting to retreat. Jangyam is impressed to see that these creatures are smart enough to flee instead of charging into danger. As Jangyam collects the mana stones, Youngu notices a blue stone hovering in the air and asks what it is. Jangyam, a bit surprised, asks if he's never seen a mana stone before. Youngu admits he hasn't, so Jangyam explains that he uses them to enhance his abilities. Youngu finally understands why Jangyam didn't bother extracting mana stones from the orcs earlier. Youngu points out that with powers like this, Jangyam could easily clear the entire tunnel on his own. Jangyam responds that he didn't come here intending to clear the tunnel, he just wanted to assess the situation. If he found it feasible, he would quietly break through without drawing attention to his abilities. Youngu apologizes for tagging along, but Jangyam reassures him that it's fine, admitting he didn't know the way to the tunnel anyway, so without Youngu, he wouldn't have made it here.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more manhwa recaps every week. Hit that bell icon so you never miss the latest chapters and stories from your favorite manhwa series.